where the French know so even start. It's not even a low point in Canadian history. We have to come up with a whole new word with what's going on right now.
Hit me with it, Captain Maple Maga.
Liberals just told all of its citizens this weekend that a man who they didn't even vote for.
I shouldn't have to explain this to anybody who has voted in a Canadian election, but we never vote for the Prime Minister. Unless you're one of the 100,000 or so people that live in the riding where he's running. Which does actually mean that more people recently voted for Mark Carney than have ever voted for any individual Prime Minister. His election is hardly unprecedented. Kim Campbell was elected leader of the Conservatives and therefore became Prime Minister as recently as 1993.
Who doesn't even have a seat in the House of Commons is their new Prime Minister.
And neither did John Turner when he became Prime Minister back in 1984.
Someone who's been one of the top advisors to the leader that everyone knows by now has been more destructive to our country and our reputation around the world than any other leader in our history.
You are, of course, referring to Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who appointed him as Governor of the Bank of Canada and then asked him to become his finance minister. Right? He's not. I just wanted to point out that the Conservatives actually launched Mark Carney's career.
Who single-handedly is the reason why we're the laughingstock of the world right now.
Only in the minds of the people whose imagination has been hopelessly poisoned by red pills. By most measures, and this one combines RepTrak and the Corruption Perceptions Index from Transparency International, Canada is doing just fine, and here we were sandwiched in between Australia and Singapore.
Liberals be using some really smart propaganda right now, straight out of the playbook, that makes the U.S. the enemy.
Yes, because Canada picked the fight with the USA? Really? Is that what you're going with? Canada made the US their enemy? I think you need to ask some serious, self-reflective questions about who the propagandist is here.
Take the focus off the fact that we should all be demanding an election be called right now so we can finally get these people out of leadership.
If there is an election, I don't think you're gonna like the result.
There's zero talk of an election being called right now.
That's funny because the new Prime Minister has actually been talking about calling a snap election the entire time he's been campaigning for the job. As recently as 50 minutes before I recorded this.
Here, I love you, man, but what's your plan? This is your time to shine. Be loud about how you are going to be different.
This is actually your first good question because Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives have no plan. Their plan was to run on some version of Canadian Trumpism, you know, like your ludicrous hat. The taste for a leader who maligns the country by calling it a hellscape, not so strong in this particular moment.
My team has reached out. We've heard nothing back. I've heard the same thing from other podcasters. That was one of the smartest marketing strategies Trump used to win the last election in the U.S.
Which he can't and won't do because that would only further cement the association with Trump. And that would be a very poor idea. The problem with being a populist is that if the winds shift and your position is no longer popular,
it's time to make Canada great again.
Alternatively, I think it's time for you to get a new catchphrase.